UFC 317 took place a few days ago. I am in immense pain from what happened in the main event. I'm gonna be ranking the entire card based on how good each fight was and how crazy the finishes were. Starting with the early prelims, we had Jonata Deniz versus Alvin Hines. Two blobs in the ring, the immovable object versus the immovable object. Now, for a heavyweight fight, these guys were actually doing something, which is crazy to see. Usually we get like a combined 20 strikes landed and maybe a TKO finish, but there was some, albeit ugly, back and forth. Deniz was just landing what looked like normal shots, but Hines just has that Nate Diaz skin where you just start bleeding profusely after the smallest amount of contact. Every round, Hines had his hands up with his face being an absolute mess. Like, bro, you're down 2 rounds. You ain't Rocky. Then Deniz gets tired because heavyweights have 0 gas tank and Hines wins the round, but Deniz wins 29-28. Pretty mid fight, but for heavyweights, I've seen a lot worse, so we're going a low C on this one. Next, we have Jacoby Smith versus Nico Price. Smith starts off the round explosive as hell. He gets Price down, had some pretty good ground and pound shots, but then he was still getting hit by the absolute punching bag that is Nico Price. Smith looks like he's kind of gassing out towards the end, but then in round 2, he just got a rear naked choke out of nowhere, makes Nico Price tap, and gets the finish. This was an alright finish. Jacoby Smith definitely needs to improve his game, but it was a good win nonetheless. I'm going high C on this one. We move on towards the prelims to Terrence McKinney versus Slav Borshev. This one was an immediate takedown into a submission attempt. McKinney gets the guillotine and Borshev is just squirming and kicking like a fish trying to get out, but the choke was already in and McKinney wins. A lot of these fights were super quick finishes, so the time in between was just an ad fest, which sucked, but it is what it is. Great win. I'm going with a low B on this one. It was quick, impressive, and McKinney took no damage whatsoever, so he should be looking to get right back in there soon. Next, we have Tracy Cortez versus Vivian Araujo. This was a certified war between these two. I mean, what an absolute slugfest between two marauders. Nah, but this one was pretty boring. Tracy Cortez did a lot of marauding in this fight, where it's just takedowns, a few submission attempts here and there, maybe a few knees to the thigh here and there. Nothing crazy. Pretty boring fight, but hey, the camera work, top notch.
What's all that movement back there?
I've never been more intrigued to see someone in full mount, and the visuals, I'll give it an S, but the fight itself, I'm going with a low D. Moving on to Haider Emil versus Jose Miguel Delgado. Just when you think a fight on this card couldn't end faster, this fight happens. Crazy start, both guys get going immediately. Emil throws Delgado off, he gets up, both guys are swinging, and then Delgado just knees Emil up the middle, puts him out cold. A lot of people were saying this might have been an early stoppage, but I think it was fine. Delgado probably would have ended up getting finished a second or two later, so it really wasn't any point of, continuing the fight. I'm gonna give this one a B. Wasn't much of a fight, but a crazy finish that made up for it. Next up, we have Gregory Rodriguez versus Jack Hermansson. The fight begins, and both fighters are kind of going back and forth. Not much happening in terms of damage. Hermansson was doing some work with the kicks and some jabs here and there, and RoboCop was as well, but he was missing a lot of his punches, and they were barely grazing like the shoulder or the arms. And then late round 1, RoboCop pushes forward and just absolutely murders Jack. Flatlines him out cold, and then he hits him with a follow-up shot. Really unnecessary, but then again, Herb Dean should have been there to stop it before it happened, so great finish. I'm pretty sure Rodriguez got a performance bonus for that KO. Swole Obama literally kills a man in broad daylight. This one is going in the A. It was a crazy, violent finish. What a way to end the prelims. We get to the main card, starting with Peyton Tabit versus Felipe Lima. Felipe Lima is doing well in the first round. He's landing on Tabit. Then Lima starts to get takedowns, but Tabit has noticeably improved his takedown defense. Lima gets Tabit's back, but Tabit's used to Frank Ocean taking his back, so he defends it pretty well. They're both back up. At the end of the round, Lima wins round 1. Then in the last 2 rounds, Tabit's doing well. Lima shoots in but doesn't get it and ends up on bottom and gets hit by Tabit a few times. This is where Lima just starts absolutely throwing the fight. He's doing dumb spinning back fists, trying to go for leg locks and weird inverted inverted shit. I mean, at the end of the third round, he's literally upside down on Tabit's back, just doing nothing. When you know you're losing the fight. Very low IQ from Lima. He was doing very well when he was doing normal stuff like normal takedowns and normal 1-2s instead of just spamming spin attacks. But yeah, really dumb plan. Tabit wins 29-28. New mythical fighter unlocked. Pride Month Tabit. I mean, listen, this kid's unstoppable. I'm giving this one a low C, and although Tabit improved his takedown defense, I really can't say it was more him winning the fight than Lima straight up losing the fight, because he had everything that he needed to win and somehow resorted to being a complete dumbass with his game plan in the last 2 rounds. We move on to Renato Moicano versus Beneil Dariush. So, round 1, Dariush is staying busy, hitting Moicano with some leg kicks, a few body kicks, and some jabs here and there. Moicano's throwing back. It's close, but I'd say towards the end of the round, Dariush is slightly up. And then under a minute left, Moicano rocks Dariush and drops him back. I'm thinking the fight's about to be over, Moicano's about to pressure and finish Dariush, but he was a little bit more patient than I was expecting. I felt like he could have had one of those spamming hammer fist moments where you're not really throwing anything crazy, but just a whole sequence of the knockdown and the adrenaline, and the refs would have intervened. But the round ends, Moicano claims the round, especially with that knockdown. Then round 2, Dariush just takes Money Moik down with ease, which was pretty unexpected. I would have thought that he would have been a little bit better with the takedown defense, especially with Dariush's old ass, but Beneil holds him down for the round. Crowd starts booing. Dariush controls him for almost the entire round. It's 1-1. And then round 3, Dariush is just being the busier fighter. I don't know what happened to Moicano, but he just was not throwing anything. And then late in the round, he just sort of shoots a weak takedown and just stalls for the end of the round. Dariush wins 2-1. It was a pretty disappointing fight. I mean, Moicano just wasn't himself, and it was a pretty bad performance overall. Other than the knockdown in the first round, I don't know, maybe he got injured. At the end of the second, I know he was kind of limping, so maybe there was like a kick that landed, or he just tweaked it. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I'm going with a C on this one. It was a pretty mid fight other than the first round towards the end. We move on to the feature fight, Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval. And bro, I've been watching UFC for a minute, you know. Joshua Van is him. Bro is a straight dog. Like, he's fighting like every other month, and since he got knocked out like a year ago, he's fought like 5 or 6 times and he's won them all. Definitely one of my favorite up and coming fighters right now. Also, Van literally beat the shit out of Bruno Silva 3 weeks ago, and then he took this fight. Man, this guy's fucking goated. Round 1 starts, and both guys are already throwing like a million strikes. Royval is definitely throwing more volume, but Van's shots are just a lot harder and accurate, and he's finding Royval's chin pretty early. Close round, but Van wins it. Then in round 2, Van is still landing some good shots, but Royval starts mixing in some combos, and he's throwing some quick 1-2s. I was getting a little bit worried for Van. The pace that Royval was putting on was a lot, but Van was still hanging in there. Then round 3, I shit you not, anime sequence. I mean, the pace of this fight was so crazy. I remember seeing the clock, and only 2 minutes of the round had gone by, and it felt like I just watched a 5-rounder just take place. Van slightly down in the 3rd round, but he makes an extremely smart adjustment and starts stomping Royval's lead leg so he can't push off with the jab. Royval's leg legit folded like 3 times. He's falling all over the place. Van's hitting him with combos. Bop, 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 bop. Moves out the way, lands clean, ducks some shots. Royval lands a big knee, and then Joshua Van, mind you, there's 10 seconds on the clock. He catches Royval, drops him, starts the ground and pound, time runs out. He legit stole that victory away with those adjustments in the last minute of this round. Joshua Van wins 29-28. There was a 30-27, which I don't know how you could score that. It was a clear 29-28, but yeah, man, what a sick fight. I think this fight broke the record for most strikes attempted in a 3rd rounder. Just an absolute barn burner from these two. Joshua Van, 3 weeks time, went from number 12 ranked flyweight, fighting on the prelims, gets a TKO and beats the number 1 contender, gets a fight of the night bonus, and then also he had a moment with the champ in the co-main, which I'll get to in a second. But man, what a series of events for Joshua Van. He's definitely becoming an overnight favorite, and his stock has just shot to the moon with this performance. I also think right now flyweight is one of, if not the most exciting divisions in the UFC, and tonight was just further proof. This one, no question, is getting an S tier. Shout out to Joshua Van, our little battle gnome. If you know, you know. We get to the co-main event with Alejandro Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. Listen, man, Pantoja is just too good. Top 3 flyweight of all time. Insane resume. And he basically cleared out his division. I feel like he doesn't get the respect that he deserves, and he should definitely be in the top 5 pound for pound list right now. Before the fight starts, Kai Kara France is doing his forced angry walk. Pantoja just comes in chilling. He's bumping many men. He knows he's just another day at the office. Round 1, round 2, Pantoja's just dominating with the takedowns and just tiring Kai out. Even in the exchanges, Pantoja is putting on a crazy high pace. But he wasn't getting tired like he usually does. Usually Pantoja will have a super high output in the first 2 rounds. Then he'll start slowing down, lose a 4th round, and then somehow just turn it up again in the 5th. But in the 3rd round, he has Kai's back, slips a rear naked choke under the chin. Kai's trying to fight it as much as he can, but it's lashed around the neck, can't escape, and he taps. Pantoja wins again, and then him and Van have a face-off. It was pretty respectful, and man, I'm excited for that fight. I'm gonna give this one a high C. Wasn't the most entertaining fight, but Pantoja is just so dominant as a champ that it's really hard to get going against him, especially how well he mixes in the takedowns and puts on that pace with the striking. We definitely need to see him move up and fight Merab after the Van fight, and yeah, going with the C. Moving on to the main event, we have Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. It's just sad, man. Ilya's a fucking menace to society. He surpassed bald Randy Orton at this point. I knew Oliveira didn't have a good chance going into this fight, but I just started praying that his loss was at least bearable, and let me tell you, man, it fucking wasn't. But before we get to that, Oliveira's wife and kids are front row. The camera's panned on him and the entire family is just crying, bro. And I'm gonna say this, man, fighters should not bring their family to fights like these. Like, you're just gonna give them PTSD at this point. Like, at no point should his family have been there. And it's really sad to see, especially with what ended up happening. And then Ilia walks out, man, and it's just so badass. Like the bells and then the little guitar, man, just a little evil little gremlin, bro. So round 1 begins. Charles is storming out the gates, and he's actually landing some pretty good shots on Ilia. But Ilya's being pretty patient, hits Charles back with a few shots. They get tangled up, and I already see Charles bleeding, so I'm like, fuck, dude, this is not good at all. But then Charles has Ilia up against the cage. He gets both hooks in. He goes to throw Ilia, and Ilia just twists mid-air and lands on top of Charles. It's like he's like a fucking cat, bro. Like, no matter where, you have him in gravity, he'll always land on his feet. He passes guard, and then he gets Olives in a crucifix. And now I'm like, fuck, dude, he's gonna just ground and pound him or like go for a submission. But Charles escapes, goes for a leg lock. Ilia slips out, and then Charles does his little guard stalling that he does when he needs to catch his breath. The ref gets him up, and then Oliveira, man, I don't know what he was thinking, but he dives straight into the pocket, swings wild, hits Ilia in like the shoulder armpit area, and then Ilia just catches him with a counter, and he follows up and brutally slumps Charles out cold. It was depressing to watch, man, but it was such a crazy finish. Knocked out Charles Oliveira in 2.5 minutes. Ilia is the biggest star in the UFC right now. I mean, he already kind of was, but this win definitely solidified that title. Ilia might have the best 3-win streak in UFC history. He knocked out Volk, Max, and Charles all back to back to back. I really don't think anyone can beat him right now. He's young, he's still improving his game, and most importantly, he just has that confidence that no one else has in the octagon right now. The camera pans to Arman and Gaethje. They look scared as fuck, and then Paddy Pimblett, fat ass, he gets into the cage. Him and Ilia start going back and forth. Ilia pushes him, and that ends UFC 317. This fight's going in the A tier, mainly for the KO and the moment. It just felt like it's the start of a new era. That might be a casual take, but it really just felt like McGregor levels of aura. Sad for Charles, but man, Ilia is just unstoppable right now. And to be honest, the way Ilia's roadmap plays out right now, he probably faces Arman or Paddy, maybe even both, and then the Islam fight is definitely gonna happen. And if all goes well for him, he might even be able to fight for the welterweight belt if Islam wins, or if he beats Islam coming back down from a loss and then he goes to fight JDM. It's a tall task, but if it all goes well for Ilya, he's on track to be the greatest MMA fighter of all time. And I could honestly see him retiring within the next like 2 to 3 years. And especially if he fights for that third belt, it would be undeniable that he is the GOAT at that point. Now that I've ranked all the fights, I'm going to rank the card overall. There were some fun scraps on the prelims. The start of the main card was pretty bad, but then Van Royval happened, which is fight of the year right now, no debate whatsoever. And then we got a dominant Pantoja win and a devastating, heartbreaking, soul-crushing KO from Ilya Topuria. Overall, I'm going to give this card a high B. I think there were some really good matchups here and there, but there were also a lot of just quick, decent finishes. I also think that this is one of the best cards of the year so far, which is crazy because the past year now, the UFC has just been so inconsistent with their overall card quality. And I hope after this whole Dana White boxing promotion shit and John Jones getting bitched into retirement by Tom Aspinall, we can finally have some balance in this sport and start getting these divisions active again. That's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me working on providing better content for you guys. Comment down below your thoughts on this card and see you next time. Goodbye.